Here we go. Thank you all for coming, and welcome to Libertopia in San Diego. It's been an exciting show so far. We've had some great speeches. I hope all of you got a chance to catch Jeffrey Tucker's speech yesterday at 5. The important takeaway from that speech that I don't think was really sunk in for everybody yet is we've already won. The monopoly is broken. We now have real money circulating around the world and used by people. It has a ways to go in usability and scalability, but as we'll get on in the second half of this presentation, we'll talk about, my belief is EOS has solved the scalability problem, and we are ready for a cryptocurrency that can be used by billions of people around the planet. Okay, so what I'd like to focus on is the Cryptolifer mentality. All the FUD that we've been dealing with since August of last year, the beatdown of the market is going to end, and all savers, everybody who has some wealth, is going to find out about the cryptocurrency market this year and are going to try to jump in. Those that do so before September are going to survive, thrive, and prosper through the changes, the turbulence that's coming in the commercial and central banking system. I think anyone who has looked at the situation, let's say, with Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank's stock is about a quarter of what it was 6 months ago. They have the largest exposure to the derivative bubble on the planet. And they've been told, after the 2008 bailout, Deutsche Bank, along with every other bank in the world, every country in the world, passed laws that say no more bailouts. So if we have a crisis like we had in 2008, the central banks of the world and the governments of the world have announced anyway that they're not intending to bail anyone out. Okay, and instead the banks will adopt the Cyprus model. You might remember from when the banks closed their door in Cyprus, and it is the bail-in model, which means who are the bail-in people? Well, they're the depositors of any financial institution, and we're going to see the first tremors of this collapse late this year. And it's not going to collapse this year, in my opinion, but we will see the first tremors, and will probably surround Deutsche Bank, just because they're the most exposed, they're the biggest bank in Europe, and we're going to find out about something called counterparty risk, which really makes the game exciting, if only for those of us who can see it coming and prepare for it with cryptocurrencies. The next major topic I plan to talk on today is, I don't know how much you've all looked into EOS, but I can say I've been following EOS for quite a while. A month ago, I pretty much took a deep dive and spent most of the month digging into everything written about EOS, everything Dan Larimer's ever said, every interview he's ever done. And I don't think you realize the implications of this technology, that it is not a new currency or a new DApp or some other play. It's going to go, the coin's going to go up. All of those are true. EOS will be the most valuable thing to hold in your portfolio ever, but not just because it's going to go up. It really will change the world. My apologies. And there we go. So let's just jump into it. So what is, pray tell, a cryptolifer? Okay. A cryptolifer is somebody, first and foremost, who realizes inherently that cryptocurrency is more real than gun in your mouth fake fiat money. Cryptocurrency is inherently deflationary. It is not controlled by politicians or banksters who are seeking to control us. It is controlled by the users thereof. And once you accept that, you realize the sooner you're able to move your income stream into crypto, the better. And it doesn't mean you have to immediately take the plunge and saying, I'm quitting my day job and I'm jumping in and all I'm going to do is earn in crypto. You can certainly keep the day job. You can keep going in and sitting in a cube in your khakis and doing work that may or may not excite you or thrill you. until such a time as you're able to establish enough crypto income that it becomes a realistic possibility to say, I can do time. And suddenly, I don't need to live in the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in the burbs that's close enough to the highway, to my cube in downtown office to do my gerbil wheel job. Say, I can go live in, say, Acapulco. I don't know how many of you were at Acapulco, but there is now a 500-person strong anarchist community living in Acapulco. And it's just people that started going to the Anarchapulco show and realized there's opportunity here. It's a great cost of life. It's a fun place. The weather's perfect all the time. I'm going to jump into that. Okay, so there's sort of a plus side to this world and a downside. And the plus side is we who are savvy of cryptocurrencies and are already in the game are most certainly going to see tremendous returns this year. But the main thing I want to impress upon you is the Cryptolifer mentality means don't ever want to go back into the banking system. So what's going to evolve this year is ways to spend cryptocurrency directly. Okay, and right now it's fairly problematic. The Visa and MasterCard have fought back, and Wirex cards and all that stuff, and 10x cards. They're all going to happen this year. There will be a banker corrupt enough to make those transactions process, and it'll mean that you can live your whole life earning in cryptocurrency, and then you can put it behind a debit card with 10x or Wirex, and you can go to Starbucks and planes, trains, automobiles, hotels, all the normal stuff you need in your life can be done with crypto without ever going back through Coinbase back into the dollar world. Okay, and that's the main point, is to adopt that mentality, and the goal is we want to get to a place where we have this self-contained economy. First, let's focus on the negative side of all of this, the downside risk. Most of you will probably be familiar with this stuff, but the normal people in the world who watch like television programming, they're going to learn these new words, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience. Okay, everyone's going to find out about the $100 trillion derivative bubble. Almost all of which, I don't know if you know how that market works, but it's basically gambling. It's gambling on the future change of events, and of the $100 trillion bubble, 95% of it is all on the come. It's all betting on housing's going to keep going up, the stock markets are going to keep going up, the house of cards that is our fragile economic system is going to stay inflated or intact. It's not going to collapse. And unfortunately, our movement is not causing the demise of fiat banking systems. We need to be crystal clear that we bear no guilt in this matter. We are in many ways the catalyst for it, but the cause, I'll get to in just a second, the cause of the collapse was indeed the setup of the structure itself. As soon as they said as soon as Nixon took us off the gold standard and we said we're pure fiat, history has proven, I like Josh Sigurdson said, I think it was 1024 BC in China, they had the first fiat paper money that, like every other one since then, had its 44-year run and then collapsed and burned in a big pile of rubble. And every fiat currency since then, as soon as it goes pure fiat, it has a 44-year average lifespan. Whoa, wait a minute, 1972 to 2018, we're in overtime on the dollar, okay? And the dollar, in addition, is complicated by, if you recall, after World War II, we set up the Bretton Woods system. So the United States at the time had all the gold because England and France had to pay all their gold to the United States to fund the war efforts in World War II. So the Bretton Woods system basically said, we're going to make the dollar the US reserve currency because it's backed by gold. And all the other currencies will tether themselves loosely to the dollar, and therefore they're backed by gold, sort of. And then, of course, that situation persisted until Charles de Gaulle started actually saying, well, I'm going to turn this funny money paper you guys have into gold, and was going to the gold window and raiding the gold out of Fort Knox, and Nixon stopped it. Okay, and at that point in '73, our currency, and therefore all the other currencies, central bank currencies of the world, all became pure fiat. Okay, which is gun enforced only at the point of a gun, or money enforced at the point of a gun by the law. If you look at your dollar and you see that little note that says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. I remember when I was a kid, I read that and I was like, oh, cool, so our money's, this is the good money. Like, no, that actually means you're forced to accept this worthless paper. You don't have a choice if you're in this economy, in this system, until the cryptos appeared. So some of the things we're going to hear about, the derivative bubble we talked about, counterparty risk is the big one. Okay, sorry, let's go back.
Just on the derivative, your estimate 100 trillion, I've heard, like, that sounds very conservative to what I've heard.
Yeah.
I heard like 600 trillion.
It starts to get, it immediately gets into a thing where the first quake in the thing, it'll shudder. What is the expression they say? Well, economic collapse happens really slowly over time and then all at once. And my prediction is we're not going to see the all at once moment until late next year, October of 19. But by October of this year, they're going to have to solve the problem of Deutsche Bank. Okay, and Deutsche Bank, its stock has been plummeting. Everybody knows, and the reality is, if there is a bank and anyone calls its solvency into question, it's insolvent. We saw that with Lehman in 2008. You know, Lehman was a 118-year-old firm, the lion of Wall Street, but yet as soon as somebody said, I'm not sure Lehman's going to be able to cover their nut at the end of this month, boom, they're not able to. Because all of a sudden, no one will loan them money, no one will do counterparty risk. Yes?
Yeah, I've actually heard it's in the quadrillion.
Yeah. So, I mean, the size, what's happened since 2008, as most of you heard, you know, in 2008, they had this secret emergency meeting that they were literally hours away from the whole system collapsing. All the counterparty risk, taking all the banks down in one shot. We, the people, for those of us still citizens here, bailed them out to the tune of trillions of dollars and created all these dark pools. But the net effect of all of that was just to raise the stakes, okay? All we did was said, we're going to pump more gas into this balloon that's already got lots of holes in it. And we're just turning up the burners to pump more gas in. It makes the balloon bigger, but it means the inevitable fall is that much more cataclysmic to everyone involved. So you might have heard one thing that's really jumping right now is China just announced they're going to pay for Russian gas, oil and gas, in yuan. And the Russians have said that's acceptable because we're going to go right to the Shanghai market and buy gold with that yuan and take the gold back to Moscow. Okay, so suddenly there is a gold-backed competitor indirectly. You know, it's not saying the yuan is gold, but Shanghai's got most of the gold on the planet right now, the Shanghai gold market, and they're saying we're going to actively encourage the Russians to trade us oil for gold. And that's a problem because right now, if you look at the wars we've fought in the last, 50 years, well, for 50 years, for a while they were to guarantee our world reserve currency status. That's gotten already kind of shaky, but then we said we're drawing the line at oil. Everybody has to sell oil in dollars in the world, or they get the Jolly Green up their ass, And that's Iraq announced they're going to create the Iraqi gold dinar, Saddam Hussein. As soon as those words came out of his mouth, he was in a ditch getting captured by us, What about Libya, The story told about Libya is the most bullshit story on the planet. Muammar Gaddafi was an enlightened leader who was raising, education, health, everything. He was doing good things in the country. His fatal mistake, saying, I'm going to sell my oil for gold. And boom, Hillary, what'd she say? We came, we saw, he's dead. That's the leadership. That's the mindset of the people behind this. So this petrodollar situation is going away, and the net effect of that will be, right now, every central bank in the world has to keep a couple $100 billion in their coffers so that they can settle these trades. So when Germany buys oil from Venezuela, it's still brokered in dollars, so they have to have those dollars. When that need goes away, those dollars all come back here, and they're looking to buy anything that's real, hard, that's not a dollar-backed commodity, because it leads to hyperinflation. So, for example, commercial or agricultural real estate's going to do great. Gold, silver is going to do great. Cryptos, of course, you guys know this is the boom year. Okay, and at some point, probably not until like next year, we're going to start seeing commercial banks collapsing and closing their doors. That immediately starts a widespread panic. Everybody knows the ATMs don't work. And if you haven't gotten into the Cryptolifer mindset by then, it's going to be a lot tougher. So, as I mentioned, what is the mentality? Never move crypto money back into fiat. Spend it as fiat using Wirex cards and 10x technology, but don't ever go back to Coinbase and punch back into cash. You know the significance of the recent rulings on Coinbase, that anything over 20K, it's creating those little nasty bits of paper that get sent to Washington and require you to then pay your duty to the powers that be. And by just saying, I'm going to keep crypto as crypto and spend it, those transactions don't exist in the bank system. There are no little naughty 1099s, W-2s, W-4s heading in to obligate you to something for which we're not obligated. We are absolved of that obligation. Okay? So the goal of my project is to say, we're going to bring in 60 million new people into the crypto community world. And by the end of next year, we will have a self-contained economy wherein everything that is available right now in the dollar world, on the internet or in the yellow pages, or pick up the phone, I can call somebody to come provide me a service, will be provided within this community. And market forces will ensure that. If, for example, I'm only able to recruit 10 architects into the Freenet movement, those architects, there are a lot of rich crypto holders in the movement who want to build houses. And so suddenly those 10 architects are going to be busy as, they're going to be getting $500 an hour for their architecture services, and they're going to brag about it to their architect buddies who are all going to jump in. And the market will again say, anything we lack, we've created these incentives to bring in providers of any service there is. And so, my app is all about both local services. So for example, I'm taking over the Anar Castle down in Acapulco. And at some point, if I say we need a new culvert because water's pooling over there, I need to hire 3 people that just want to do manual labor. But once again, rather than going to the yellow pages or the job board or whatever, I would much prefer to get online and say, if I can, I will always prefer to hire Cryptolifers over anybody else. And so we'll have a scheduling app and everything. So I can say, Wednesday from 9 to 12, I need 3 guys to dig a ditch and put in a culvert for me. They're going to show up. You're going to watch their work. At the end of the work, you rate them. And it's all sort of an Uber-style rating system so that people know, this guy does good work. He's going to be a busy person. And a lot of other crypto holders are going to want to pay this person. If you give them a bad rating, there's a good chance they're not going to get hired again, and it will encourage, good service in our community. So again, the goal here is to say, we want to be able to have every service available on the planet within our life. And at this point, I'm deliberately conjoining my movement, the Freenet movement, with EOS and Internet version 3. And I do it on purpose. We are going to be a catalyst for that movement. But I think we need to talk about, in a minute, where EOS fits in and where Freenet fits in. So the next thing is, we totally anticipate a transition, that the vast majority of people are going to keep their day job. They're going to keep appearing to be normal, doing what they're doing, but they're going to start moonlighting. They'll say, I like building websites, so I'll work my day job all day, but then I'll spend a couple hours a night building websites until such a time as I've built up enough business and I've gotten enough good referrals and good ratings from people that I'm starting to have 6 hours of work a night. And it's time to ponder could I quit my day job? Can I reduce my cost footprint because I no longer need to be in a major metro area to get to that day job? Can I go live, for example, at the beach in Acapulco, and rent a mansion for $800 a month? staffed, by the way. It's an exciting thing. So the next thing that I'll touch on briefly is the real mantra of all of this is this magic phrase, perpetual passive income, okay? It is the way whereby you do work today and maybe spend capital today to create an ongoing revenue stream that you no longer have to do any effort to maintain it, okay? And my application model is all about if you become an evangelist recruiter to bring people into this world, you get the passive income rather than Freon getting it, okay? We're saying we're sharing the wealth because otherwise there's no way that my team is going to be able to directly red pill 60 million people. But by saying I'll share the wealth, so if you get one of my sticks and become a client and you like it, you can buy sticks from us, give them out to your whole crew, whether they be your golf buddies or your yachting buddies or whatever, you know, whatever affinity group you have. You give them out to your people, and then you're collecting 2% on all of their income and outbound expenditures for the rest of their lives. So the goal is to say, I'm really going to work hard and make this thing happen by the end of next year. And then I'm going to have income that I don't have to do anything. I can travel the world. I can work on new projects. I can just lay on the beach for 6 months and watch the money roll in. And that is not just achievable because of the EOS economy that's coming. It's something we can all jump into right now, okay? And that's what I'm hoping to encourage you to ponder. So, EOS, what is EOS? It is certainly, we were at the max hype level. If you've seen, everybody who went through the dot-com bubble will remember the late in the thing when B2B became the big thing, and all of a sudden all these huge players were in there in these big conferences with millions of dollars being spent, and it was at peak hype. EOS represents that, and there are people who think, well, it's unproven, untrue, you shouldn't get excited about software that's not delivered. Well, first, it's out. It's being developed right now, and I follow the EOS Telegram, the Dan-only feeds. And it's something, if you're into this stuff, it's a really fun feed to watch, because I don't know how much you know about Dan Larimer, but it's my personal humble opinion, Dan is the smartest kid on the planet right now. He has synthesized both intense knowledge of IT, scalability issues, and game theory and human psychology to create what is going to be the replacement for the internet, okay? So let's go to the end. At the end of next year, 10 to 25% of the global population, internet population, of the 2 billion people that are currently wired, and I'm going to say we're going to add another billion in the next year and a half, people with smartphones around the world, are not going to get onto what we think of as the internet today. The World Wide Web, controlled by the domain name services function and controlled really by the big tech oligopoly. You know, it's controlled by Alphabet, controlled by Twitter, controlled by Facebook, controlled by Apple and Google with their Androids, and they are actively censoring people now. They're shutting down discourse. They are silencing people who have opinions that don't match their collectivist fantasies, and people are sick of it and are ready to leave. And as we've talked about, Buckminster Fuller said, you know, don't rage against an existing system. It's futile, you know. Don't tilt against windmills. If you don't like the existing system, build a better one, and people will move to it, okay? The truth doesn't need to be forced on people. You just set the truth free, and it'll roll. So the main thing I want to impress upon you is there exists a possibility that EOS is being made of EOS than it has the potential for, but I doubt it. And having been in this community intensely for the last month, the 50,000 smartest geniuses on the planet all are drinking this Kool-Aid and are all moving towards making EOS freenet, okay? So my little thing will be a subset of that we're bringing people in specifically to focus on cryptolifers, and I'm proud to say that we are specifically focused on 15 to 25-year-olds, that the world, humanity, the freedom of humanity is going to be won or lost by who gets the minds of those kids, okay? Who convinces them? And if you look at what's going on in the education system worldwide, but especially in the US right now, not only is putting your parents or yourself into debt $250,000 to go to some liberal arts college in the US, not only is it a waste of money, it is filling your mind with inculcation and brainwashing that a free market advocate like me, I have to spend 6 months deprogramming you before you can be useful to any free market company. You have all sorts of mushy ideas in your heads that won't survive in the brutal table of free market economics. And so I'm trying to convince people not just don't go to school, become a crypto lifer right now, but drop the fuck out of high school too, because they are just filling your brains with docility and rule following and teaching you not to think independently. And there are certainly exceptions to that. There are schools that still try to trigger independent thought, but they're becoming rarer and rarer. And the returns on that time wasted in that cage are gone. So I'm hoping that everyone will wake up and punch out and find what it is they're passionate about, do it superbly, and provide that as a service to crypto lifers, and you will have the best life ever. You can embrace. I'm getting to rent this house down in Acapulco, the Anarcastle, because my friend Juan Galt has achieved the place and time that, he's got a little crypto wallet that hangs around his neck. He looks like, I think Juan's about 30 or 28? He's a young guy, looks like a hippie punk, but he's got hundreds of thousands of dollars in crypto and is employed anywhere he wants to go. He has 10 projects that want to hire him all day. So he's going to go perpetual tourist and just start traveling around the world being cool and doing fun stuff. And so let's get back in and focus on EOS. And anybody has questions anytime, just jump in. But a lot of people have hard thinking, what is EOS? Is it a new currency? They're certainly not trying to be a currency. They're not trying to compete against Dash and Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin. They're in a completely different space. EOS tokens will have value, but the way that I found best to conceptualize what is EOS is 3 months ago we looked up and discovered there's a whole new North America floating in the clouds, okay? And because of EOS's focus on scalability and parallelization of computer processing, this new North America is of unlimited dimensions. It can grow as big as we want it to, okay? When you hold EOS tokens, you might be familiar with the cloud computing revolution that occurred in the last 10 years. Companies like Salesforce.com said to American or worldwide businesses, you don't have to have a data center with servers and databases and those little geek guys in white coats that speak some funny language running around, telling you, oh, it can't be done, it can't be done. All that stuff can go, and Salesforce will host everything on the cloud for you. So all you have to have is network connected computers or devices. You can do it all from your phone. It's a great thing. It made enterprise computing so much more efficient. However, it's expensive. Salesforce seats cost $150 a month per seat. So corporations are still paying, they're just paying somebody else to have the data center and the hosting and all of that. EOS, because it's an economy unto itself and they're mining currency all the time, and EOS embraces this concept of inflation, which is initially sort of scary anathema to crypto heads. What do you mean? No, Bitcoin's only 21 million ever. That's what makes it great. Well, EOS says we can pay for all the storage so that everybody can build apps and run their whole internet life. Any application that can be run on a traditional client server model or on the Salesforce model, I can build it on EOS model and it's free. It's free to me, the developer. It's free to my customers to use, provided I have that stake. All I have to do is hold my EOS stake. So plant in the back of your heads, the one thing you're never ever going to do is sell any of your EOS. Because imagine it as this. By holding 1,000 EOS, I hold title to New Dade County, Florida in New North America. And I know for sure, having been to Dade County, that people are going to want to build massive condos, marinas, harbors, yachts, factories, and there's going to be all sorts of economic activity that occurs in Dade County, and I hold title to the land. And I make it free for all those people to build their stuff, provided I'm holding that stake, okay? And I'm going to benefit from all the apps that get built in my SWAC of land. And that's really the broadest way to conceptualize EOS is, you know, we found this new continent. There were no Native Americans that we had to dispossess and run off. It is unlimited hosting capabilities. So again, to a developer like me, you know, in a traditional world, I'd have to say, well, I'm going to make software, I'm going to burn it on a CD, and I'm going to ship it to somebody who has to have a computer and servers and all that stuff. All that goes away. No cloud computing fees. Everybody gets to use this thing for free. So my prediction is that at the end of 2018, 10 to 25% of the global internet population will be accessing only the EOS-based, decentralized, free internet version 3. You know, and if you think about the history of the internet, you know, the beginning was all entrepreneurs. I was one of them. I had a startup in 1998 called Global Network Privacy that solved essentially the same problem in a centralized format. You come through us, and then you go out on the internet, and you're anonymous, private, and we protect your interests. We delivered all the technology that the deep state needed. And in 2001, they said, thank you, we needed all of this, but now it's time for us to take over. And the dot-com bubble crashed. You know, MySpace wasn't ready to play ball, so nope, MySpace is gone. Here comes Mark Zuckerberg, the reptile, and Facebook to harvest all of our private data and sell it to anyone. You know, and on the internet as it is now, you know, I regularly refer to it as thought police net. There's certainly not freedom of speech on the internet. There's certainly censorship going on. You know, if you just say, I've been reading a little history, you go on Twitter and say, I've been reading a little history, and I'm not so sure Islam really is the religion of peace. Oh, you're out. 2-day suspension from Twitter. Do it twice, 10 minutes left. Okay, good. And anyway, what we're really after is, again, the model of raging against the machine, going and having protests, saying, you know, we're fed up and we're not going to put it anymore. That's never really changed anything, has it? You know, the hippies can go with their signs in the streets all along, and the machine just doesn't care. The way that we end the machine is we secede from it. Quietly step away. Earn your money in crypto. All of a sudden, there's none of those little naughty bits of paper getting sent to them saying that you have any obligation. You just disappear. They just think, wow, guess the economy's down. We used to get $50,000 in taxes a year from this guy, and he's gone. And so that's what we're after, is a way to let everybody jump out. Okay, I talked a little bit about the perpetual tourist lifestyle. Everyone takes good care of tourists. You know, any country you go to, they protect and coddle the tourist industry because it's a free source of outside money coming into their economy, and everybody loves tourists. So if you can live anywhere in the world, as long as you appear like a tourist, the governments will love you and take care of you because they don't consider you their cattle to be milked like your own government does. And you can be a perpetual tourist in your own country. It's just adopting the lifestyle that I'm not going to put any seizable assets in their path, that when they discover I am doing well and I am living a large life and I'm not paying taxes, I'm going to seize their assets. So, you know, think about renting stuff on an ongoing basis. You know, and the goal is we want to allow, you know, I don't believe that we need to tell everybody they've got to jump off a cliff and quit their whole life and become a crypto lifer tomorrow. It's start the process today. Start figuring out what it is you love to do, what it is you want to get paid for, and excel in it. Pour your life into doing that so that you can generate these ongoing crypto income streams. So let me just summarize my position on life and everything else. Government, all of it, is unnecessary. Everything can be provided better by the free market, including roads. And it's stupid and it's evil. All taxation's theft. It is not incumbent upon any of us to support any of this shit. There is no moral obligation to do so. All slavery is voluntary, okay, from the beginning of time. You always had the option of opting out. It might not have been an easy option, but the option has suddenly gotten way better. And that is, first, as soon as it starts within you saying, well, am I going to acknowledge that I'm willing to bend my knee and lick the hand that feeds me? Am I going to acknowledge that I owe these evil pricks in Washington some fealty? No, I'm not. I'm no longer willing to say that. I will bend my knee to my Lord, and other than that, there's not a man walking around the planet that I have any obligation to that he can't convince me of. If he can consensually convince me of something, I'm in. I'm kind of I try to be a empathetic, nice person. If somebody asks me nicely, even something that's sort of a pain, 90% of the time I'm going for it because they asked. Somebody tells me something, even the simplest thing, but barks an order at me, I'm an ordinary Irish fuck. And my immediate response is, or what? You just told me I had to do something. What are you going to do if I don't? Because unless you ask nicely, I ain't doing it. And what's going to happen? So finally, just to reiterate, we've already won this deal. Cryptocurrencies are not going away. They spent 3 years trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and they know it ain't going in. And if you look at now who all's jumping in, Venrock's jumping into the crypto space, the loathsome reptilian George Soros is jumping into they all know it's unstoppable, and now they're like, well, we might as well get in on this and make some money because we can't stop it. So that's it in a nutshell, and I would love if anybody can ask me anything. Yes?
I'm going to be real nice now.
Please, I like fastballs.
No. If I bought EOS right now, I bought a bunch of it before and sent it to a hedge fund. So that's gone. But I want to buy it right now, but I have no idea about this registration thing or anything like that. Do you have an easy formula or something?
Yes. In fact, I've already committed to some of my bros to write up just such a thing. It's still, there's some steps, and you have to either use my Ethernet wallet and MetaMask, or you can use the Exodus wallet. But let me stress to you how important that process is.
But how a child can understand it, because I'm the child.
Right. I'm going to do that. I will have it for you by Wednesday.
Wow.
And I think you're on my mailing list, right? So.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's make sure I get a card. So basically what's going on is EOS is, in a perverse way, it's sort of funny, EOS is going to kill Ethereum, okay? In 2020, no one will be doing ERC20 smart contracts because they can't scale. There might be another CryptoKitties episode that shuts the whole thing down, and so EOS will take over as a tiny subset of what EOS does. Every ICO and every smart contract starting next year will be done on EOS rather than Ethereum. However, Ethereum was the only platform available, so EOS's own ICO was, of course, an ERC20 token. As soon as mainnet goes live, and I don't know if you know the significance of June 3rd, mainnet fires up. That's when the Genesis block of EOS will be written, and it changes everything. It is the most anticipated, the biggest, most fought over, fraught with peril thing in computing ever. I mean, if you dig into all of the security steps they're doing, they've already decided which one of the 21 EOS block producers gets to do the Genesis block, but they know if anybody else knows that entity will have massive denial of service attacks and there's 3 groups of people that are trying to stop EOS. There's the general hackers that aren't really trying to stop it. They just want to make sure that you don't register right and you cough up your private key instead of your public key, and they steal your EOS, okay? Then there's a big camp, unfortunately, it saddens me to say it, but there's a big camp of Ethereum nuts that know EOS is bad for their ecosystem and world, and they oppose it. And I would contend that those people are missing the bigger picture of the cryptos are all in this together, and whatever we can do to get to this unbanked world, we should support. But there are plenty of hardcore Ethereum heads who are trying hard right now to stop mainnet from launching. And then the last group, of course, is the deep state that certainly doesn't want any of this to happen. I myself am a subscriber to the, let's call it generally the good guys, bad guys theory, that any of you who are Bix Weir fans, don't listen to what he says about EOS, but his good guys theory, I think, is intact, that there are people in the banking system who know that it's going to crash, and they are trying to help come up with a peaceful transition. What I believe is by middle of next year, EOS will be running, Dash or other currencies will have ported to EOS and will now be scalable to billions of people. At that point, what I predict the bankers are going to do is they're going to copy fork EOS, okay, and create the Globo, okay? And it'll be then the banks all crash, but they'll say, if you had 150,000 in JP Morgan or Wells Fargo, come in, let's say maybe get a little chip and a little anode in your arm, and we'll give you 150,000 Globos, and the world, everybody's happy, and the government will have solved and saved us from the economic crisis, and yeah, in many ways it'll be sort of the Jubilee year. Everybody gets to punch out of their debt, and a lot of the sheep are going to be cheering and waving. Yeah, the government saved us. We've got money again. The stores are open again. My ATM works. At that point, they're going to come after us. Okay? They're going to come after the free crypto people because they no longer need it. Much like the internet, they needed entrepreneurs to build webcams and applications and smartphones with 2 cameras on them and a microphone so that they could surveil every minute of our lives. As soon as we delivered all that technology, they crashed the internet. They're planning to do the same to the cryptos. Okay? Late next year, they're going to say, we've got the Globo, now we don't need all these competing legitimate currencies. We've got the one that we control and we can inflate and so on. So my mission is to make sure we have 60 million hardcores to make it impossible to rub us out worldwide, okay? To make it, there's too many of us, we're too smart, we're too well connected, we're living in places like Liberland and Acapulco where we have enough consensus that it would be hard to come in and rub us all out. And I think that is the key to freeing humanity and giving our world another chance. That we can have the world of abundance and all this cool technology that's coming down the pipe, all this Jetsons world stuff, can be built instead of flying over countries and bombing brown people out of existence. Thank you for coming. One more question. Yeah, I'm waiting for EOS to officially sanction that, though, because if you go to EOS.io, they still say the only officially supported thing is Muse and MetaMask, And for me, I'm a Trezor guy, so I want to do it with my Trezor anyway. So it's easier, but it is 10 steps instead of 1 click. You're right. Why is it so important to have your EOS registered? I meant to get this. This is an important thing. In addition to owning title to New Dade County, okay, Dan came up with this model that said if you look at any time a monetary system in history has collapsed, it always gets restarted, and but then it starts the same way, that the guys at the top with the gold say, well, we're going to do a new coin. So the old Friedrich coin is no longer worthless. I'm going to put the Leopold coin and stamp it, and it trickles down, and at the bottom, people start using it eventually, okay? Well, Dan came up with this model and said, well, since we're building a brand new economy, what about if we went Monopoly game style instead, where right at the beginning of the game, everybody starts with the $972 they get from the bank. Everyone starts off level, okay? And there is no pyramid above it. There's the bank, and everybody's got the money. So you might have heard the term airdrops, okay? That is applications, new applications that are being built on EOS that will solve every problem in enterprise computing, the way that they encourage you to come in and use their application, the way that they get over the entropy of everybody likes to stay in their snail trails. I get up and I check my Facebook page. I get up and we're trying to break people's patterns, and that's hard. People don't like breaking their patterns. The way you do it is you say, well, come check out my Facebook replacement, and you got $50 worth in there, okay? So airdrops are saying we're going to start everybody off with money at the bottom of the pyramid, all of us. And human nature being what it is, of course, within 6 months, smart kids are going to have most of the money, and dumb people are going to have lost it. But at least it starts off democratic and fair, and it energizes the system and encourages people to change their pattern and go into this new internet version 3. it's going to be a really, really exciting year and a half. And I'm just so excited to be here in this place and time. Life is amazing. What's up?
Do you have a traditional like investment deck?
Just letters and wrap and stuff like that, and I've got spreadsheets that talk about return and stuff like that. But this wasn't really intended to be, I'm trying to recruit people into the broader movement, not solicit angels, because that's all coming together, and it's probably going to close out by the time I'm end of next week. So.
Okay, but you don't have a deck for those angels, you don't have an executive summary?
I got an email that I can send that lays it all out, how it works and so on.
Is it the one that's already formatted? Okay, I got that.
Yeah. But we can talk anyway. Anybody else?
Just quickly, are you familiar with the rift between Larimer and Steam?
Yeah.
Is there anything to that? Or?
Well, so let's go right back to Bitshares. Okay, so Dan's founded two companies that are still both the top 20 cryptocurrencies, and Steam and Bitshares both do more transactions. Steam alone does more transactions per day, every day, than Ether and Bitcoin, big Bitcoin, united, both put together. Dan figured out scalability, but then basically got bored. Steemit was where it wanted to be. He wanted to build more, and there was entropy in the group that they said, now we like the way Steemit works. So he punched out. Two things are going to happen. Steemit's going to move to EOS. Everything's going to end up, you can pick software up. It's C++, Node.js. You can pick software up, drop it on the EOS platform, and suddenly, someone I predict is going to, it will be Dash who does it first, okay? Because Dash has the DAO, and Dash can actually make decisions, whereas the Bitcoin community has to be 100% consensus, and nothing's really ever been decided in that community because of the requirement. But so Dash will pick up, and suddenly already low-cost, fast transactions on Dash will be free and 2 blocks a second. EOS generates 2 blocks a second. So you talk about transaction times, that is faster than Visa's approval when you swipe. You're talking about instant confirmed transactions in this network. So Steemit's going to move on to EOS, Dash is going to move on to EOS, everything's going to move on to EOS, or they're going to be left in the past.
So it's just a family squabble, so to speak.
Correct. Yeah, they were certainly bummed Dan left, but Dan's going to save Steemit as well by moving it onto EOS. And what I like is his commitment now is, people are saying, well, Dan, you've kind of left two projects in the lurch. What's the movie about the bride who went to 40 weddings and ran each time, the runaway bride? So people asked Dan, is there any chance you're going to leave Block 1? And he basically said, I built Block 1 specifically as a toolkit for me to build EOS, to build future apps on. This will be my playground forever. I'm going to, as soon as EOS is up and running stable and they got the bugs fixed, Dan moves on to say, it's time to move the world of real estate onto the blockchain on EOS. Let's go pick which app is best. I'll help fund it and all of that. Everything that happens right now in enterprise computing worldwide will happen on the EOS chain in 3 years. And the people who are utilizing it will be the freest, happiest people on the planet, and will, in some ways, miss a lot of the trouble that's coming for the rest of the world.
Or it's like owning real estate on the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah, indeed so. So I'm way over time, but I'm happy to keep going. Is there somebody coming in next, or I think we're good? Thank you all for coming, and enjoy the rest of the show. And let me get a card. What's that?
Going down there for lunch?
Yeah.
I'll see you down there.
Okay.
Excuse